Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to a very happy streamer and a content creator because I am currently looking at what might be my favourite plane of 2019. Now, my experience with jets dates back to a very long time ago. I remember when the A5 Sabre and the MiG-15 Bis were the only top-tier jets, and Germany's only counterpart was the 262, Japanese only had the Kai 200, and I believe the British only had the F8. So things were quite different back then. There were less maps. Most of the time it was just Korea. And obviously player skill level and the mixture between 8.0 and 9.0 was vastly different. Albeit at the beginning we didn't even have 9.0s because there was 20 tiers. Now, this video, and in fact perhaps my love for the plane, would have never happened on this extent if it wasn't for my fellow content creator, mycoachboom. It was his tweets of the matches he had. He kept tweeting, 4 or 5 kill games, even I think there was like one 7 kill match, that made me sort of spike interest in wanting to test this thing out. At the same time though, I have to say, Mike, I hate you for not uploading any of those videos, because I genuinely have an amazing time watching this plane be flown out, and I'll tell you why. All the other rockets in this game, and I'm not going to try to pronounce any of them because I don't really remember them. There's AIM-9s and then there's... Yeah. These are SRAMs. And one thing you have to know about these rockets is that they have horrible range. The range of these rockets is 1 kilometer. Which means you have to get within 1 kilometer of whatever you want to fire at. Otherwise, you have no chance of hitting it. But here's a twist. Once you are within 1 kilometer, these rockets have about a 98% chance to kill. And that's regardless of where the plane's going, how it turns. There are ways to evade it. A very skilled player who's anticipating a SRAM rocket to be fired at him has a chance to evade. But it usually doesn't work. So if you are flying the Hunter, the only thing you have to keep in mind is you have to get within 1 kilometer. If you're flying anything other than the Hunter and you spot a Hunter, stay away from it, right? The only way to defeat a Hunter is to stay away from it. Now, don't try head-ons because there's still 4 30mm Aiden cannons and they will rip through you. On the other hand, don't go into a turn fight because as soon as the Hunter gets you to overshoot, you're going to be low, slow, and probably within 1 kilometer range. Whatever you do, try to keep the plane in a straight line and try to go as fast as possible. Some of the ways I've seen people actually evade these rockets is in F4 Phantoms by simply being faster than the actual SRAM rocket. So here you can see an F100D, I didn't even need to use the SRAM rockets because, well, there's those guns. Then an F100D within 1 kilometer, you fire the rocket, it traces, and that's an instant, quick little double kill for us. Again, check R6, and I've started to do this a lot more often, just like I did in the old days when I was playing all jets. Before and after every engagement, check your 6. Simple rule, it will keep you alive for months on end. Go for an F100, I miss him, nearly ram a friendly, but then out of nowhere comes an opportunity. Now, I've been flying the Hunter relatively low for the most time, and the matches you'll see that a lot of my games in the Hunter have been at low altitude. It's because of kills like this. Lock on, inverted rocket strike, sideway. I mean, that's a sidewinder, basically. An absolutely disgusting kill that you can't achieve with any other rocket in the game. And again, I check my 6 as soon as I'm done with the engagement. Now, you'll notice there might be a few kills where I don't do that. That's because I'm 100% confident that there's nobody behind me, but especially in the first half of the match when most of the enemy team is still alive. Check your 6, because you will get ruffle stomped if you don't. Now, in the wake of trying to learn more about these jets, more about the rockets, more about the specifics, more about the matchmaker in general, I did what everybody else does, and that's I went up on YouTube and I tried to find some gameplay. So I spent quite a lot of hours watching Spitfire, watching Whoop-de-Doo, and I've recently also been watching a little bit of Sergeant Witty. One of his videos on the Hunter actually spiked my attention because he mentioned that he likes to fly relatively high and never get below the enemy. And it's funny because I'm the exact opposite. Where people tend to climb, I will tend to dive. And that's because I actually find myself more comfortable being below the enemy. Call me Anakin, if you will, but I don't like the high ground. And one of the reasons for it is because I love to apply defensive flying more so often than the classic boom and zoom technique. I've actually been known in the past and have a video on this topic. I believe it was made on the P-47M. And the tactic is called reverse boom and zooming, where instead of diving, attacking the enemy and climbing away, you zoom up into the enemy, attack them, and then dive away. And it's a brilliant technique to use whenever you're below the enemy and you have a plane with a good level of energy retention. And since we have rockets and a plane like the Hunter, who's to say that I can't zoom up at the enemy? And the reason why I believe the reverse boom and zooming is such a great technique is because your speed is decreasing. And when your speed decreases, your maneuverability increases, making it much easier to put guns on targets, rockets on targets, adjust your course. Of course, it does make you more vulnerable, but if you have done checking your SIGs before and after the engagement, you should be fine. And of course, all of this brings us to that one part where we have to ask ourselves, are these rockets too good? You know, are they too easy to use? Are they too brain dead? The reality is that I have a feeling they're probably going to get nerfed sometime in the future. And it's down to no other reason but the fact that as soon as this video goes out and other videos are like it, when people see that, you know, this is a relatively easy plane to fly, they're going to flock to it. The sad part is that you don't have these rockets. When you're going to unlock your Hunter, you're going to be basically flying a Hunter F1 that's just extremely up-tiered. So you're going to have a hard time. So unless, of course, you splurge a bunch of Golden Eagles into unlocking these rockets, only to then have the plane nerfed later on, what they're going to do is anyone's guess. But here's the thing that I have to say. If you're going to change the performance of any plane or any weaponry that a plane has, you must also take into account its battle rating. If the Hunter F6 was to have its SRAM rockets nerfed by anything more than 30% of its current efficiency, then its battle rating should be reduced down to 9.3. At which point, it can become an issue for some 8.3 planes. And again, we're back on that talk of battle rating decompression. I personally think the plane, along with its rocket performance and its current battle rating, is perfectly fine. And that's because of one reason and one reason alone, and that's speed. It's not fast enough to really compete with anything else at its tier. And so the rockets are the only thing that gives it an edge, that makes it that much more pliable. And I'm confident that as time continues, people are going to learn different methods to take hunters out. They're going to learn how to focus hunters, because hunting a hunter, it's not that difficult at the end of the day. The plane doesn't turn that well, it doesn't retain energy that well, and so it shouldn't be a big deal. But if you don't believe me, I do have a way to provide an argument, and it's the match that you're watching in the background. This was probably the best match I had in the Hunter, and yet the most disappointing one. There were many things I could have done better. There were definitely, mistakes or slight kinks made, but it was one of those matches that generally got me nervous. Usually when I play the game, I'm relaxed. I have so many hours in it that I don't feel the stress or the anxiety that some players might have when it comes to solo carrying, but it was difficult because I was stuck in a 1v1 with an F4 Phantom. And the F4 Phantom wasn't going to kill me, he was just simply going to finish off the ground targets, and the match was going to end. Now, I could try to counter this by going after ground targets myself, but I would have probably had to go back to base, rearm and repair, and he was going to have ample opportunity to continue firing those, I believe, the Mighty Mouse rockets. And there wasn't much of a choice for me to do. I cannot catch up to him. I need to make sure that he's within 1 kilometer for the rocket to hit. I need to time my engagement. I could force a head-on, but he's probably not going to have it. There were just so many things that he did right that I could not counter. And I knew that if he continues to fly his plane to near point perfection, that we were going to lose the game. So I was trying to, really push these engagements, try to put a few rocket shots off. At one point, in fact, just before the match ended, I actually almost hit him. And when the final rocket strike did finally track into him, the match had ended. I'm not going to lie here, it was pretty frustrating seeing that final kill go to waste because it happened after the fact. It was annoying losing the game like that, especially after I was given the opportunity to finally in a long time have some one-in-one engagements and try to solo carry. But that's the game, and sometimes you lose. Now, I have to give big props to the F4 Phantom pilot purely for, you know, being a good sport and just doing what had to be done. He solo carried too. You know, he carried his team, and kudos where kudos are due. And I think what you can take from that match is that if the Hunter had less powerful rockets, or perhaps didn't have rockets at all, if you're stock, you can probably imagine that half of those kills would never have happened. I probably wouldn't be around at the end of the match trying to solo carry, and that would have been a big bummer. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to be back again next week for some more jet content if you guys wanted. I've been sort of burnt out from the tanks. I haven't looked at any of the the thermal images and RR